Happy Friday, New York Met baseball fans. How are we all doing? Glad you could check in. Looks like it's going to turn out to be a nice day here in the New York metropolitan area, temperature in the 70s. And the season goes on for the Mets. We're down to a final few games. Looks like 10 games left. They're all going to be interesting. Every game's unique, every game is different. And as I always like to say, you got to play the game because you just never know. You never know what's going to happen in baseball. And we could have history made on any given day. The one history I know is not going to be made is the Mets winning the pennant this year. But that's okay. Now, as always, as you can see, I always have a different hat on. Let me explain this hat on for you podcasters out there, since we do a simulcast to this broadcast. It's the Father's Day hat from a few years ago. Now, blue was always used on Father's Day for the Mets and baseball to show battles against cancer I think it's against cancer. I'm not even sure, to be honest with you, but every Father's Day they wear a special ensemble where blue is the theme, and this is the hat that went along with a jersey. It actually just had the Mets logo in blue, the Mets transcript in blue, and the pinstripes in blue. And I like this hat. I wear it quite often, actually. It's one of my favorites. And the T-shirt of the day is basically a bootleg shirt from the Shea Goodbye era in 2008. And in the back, I think there's I can't even see when I turn around, but there's all kind of characters and pictures of prominent Shea figures from the past. So that's it for you fashion police out there. I like to do that. You guys seem to be enjoying that. There was no game yesterday to talk about, so I figured this was once again to go over some of the 5 huge off-season decisions that our beloved Metropolitans must make this year. Now, the front office could be reshaped, and the manager could be replaced. Well, I can almost guarantee you the front office will be reshaped. And I can almost guarantee you, I'm not going to guarantee it because you never know. Whoever they bring in may actually like Luis Rojas for whatever reason. I think he's disappointed in clutch moments, and he's melted when it came down to clutch decision-making this year. But what do I know? He could be the personality they want for the clubhouse this year. That remains to be seen. But had the Mets found themselves in the playoffs following their August collapse and a brief late season surge that restored some hope for the last few weeks, some of the deficiencies that led to their demise might have been swept under the rug a bit, but because we're not going to be in the playoffs, it does come to the forefront and they must be addressed. So once again, Met fans, you don't have to dish out that money. You know, I'm a season ticket holder. You know that the playoff package was almost as expensive as the regular season package. Playoffs are a hot tip. Well, it really becomes expensive when they get to the World Series. So the postseason to make a how can I tie this up and get to the point? When you don't make the postseason, it costs your team big bucks. I know they split a lot with the players in MLB, but all the merchandising and everything that goes along with it is lost when you don't make the playoffs. So once again, there will not be an off season. I'm sure the Mets would have liked, especially Steve Cohen, because he's only worth about $9 zillion. He would like a little more extra cash in his pockets. So it's been basically a season of turmoil once again and underperformance on the field. And there'll be some huge decisions to make. Now, I think the biggest one and most important one, without a doubt, is how will the off-season reshape the front office? The Mets will attempt to do what they couldn't do last offseason and find a new head of baseball operations. I think they're actually approaching the end of the season with that being a goal of theirs, and it's time to get the job done. Now, there's a lot of legitimate candidates for the position, and the process could again be hampered depending on how willing some teams are allowing executives to be interviewed. But the expectation is the Mets will find a new top baseball executive, which will allow Sandy Alderson, if he remains, and I think they're going to keep him in for the transition for one more year, to do the non-baseball role he was initially hired for. Now, the GM position is up in the air with acting GM Zach Scott having been placed on administrative leave following his arrest on DUI charges. And I think that DUI charge actually sealed his fate. And it's fair to believe that the new president of baseball operations will want to choose his or her general manager. So who will it be? And what does this mean for our friend Luis Rojas? Luis Rojas, when you discuss modern managers, it's always important to understand that their responsibilities go well beyond what happens on the field. And for Rojas, he has aced the job when it comes to being the daily public face of the Mets in front of the media. And these days, that's a key thing. You don't want anyone to be a poor representative of the Met front office as manager. He's very communicative with the players. He's accountable, being calm in the face of adversity. You never really see him lose his cool in front of the cameras, maybe on the field a little bit. But he is also thoughtful in his explanations, and he listens to the questions and everything. So it's almost like the manager is becoming a figurehead in baseball these days. So as far as the on-field component, well, it is big. I mean, back in the day, that's the only reason why you were a manager. They didn't hire Billy Martin or Earl Weaver for their off-field grace. And that's where Rojas really stumbled a bit late in the season. And he was solid most of the year. Now, those stumbles included a string of late-game moves, some involving pitching changes and pinch hitting decisions that either backfired or made little sense, and some odd after-the-fact reasoning that went along with them. While the front office is reshaped above him, the call on Rojas's Met future will be an interesting one. Now, as we know, there's a lot of decisions made as far as personnel that's going to happen this year. What is going to happen this year? A lot of qualifying offers can be made. And I think two of the qualifying offers, if I were the Met front office, that I would make is to Michael Conforto and Noah Syndergaard. Now, they have the option to walk, but are candidates for the one-year qualifying offer worth roughly $20 million. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure if they're going to get outside contracts worth more than $20 million a year at this point, based on Conforto's horrible year this year and Syndergaard's questionable health. And let's face it, Syndergaard really hasn't had a good year since 2018. Even 2019, when he was healthy, he had an ERA over 4 that year. So are we paying Noah Syndergaard like the Blues Brothers on a wish sandwich type of deal where we wish he does what he did from 2015 to 2018? I wouldn't take that chance. I would give him the qualifying offer. Will they? I think they will. Should they? I think they should. A one-year deal is nothing. You're not going to lose a lot by offering a one-year deal. And you offer the qualifying offer and they don't accept, you get a number 1 draft pick along the way. So I think it's a no-brainer for them to extend the qualifying offer to both of them. I wonder how you guys feel. Now, in the case of Syndergaard, it would be a bit of a shock if he rejected the qualifying offer. He's a guy who loves the challenge, and I'm not sure if people are going to sign him to a long-term deal. And his presence in 2022 could be a game changer, could be that energy boost that the Mets need overall. And the situation with Conforto, whom the Mets had interest in extending before the season, isn't as cut and dry, I should say. Given the strength of free agent class of position players, it wouldn't be a total shock after even his uneven season if he accepted a qualifying offer as well and hit the market again in a year. But I bet on Conforto rejecting it. I think Boras is his agent, so you know how Scott Boras is. He's not going to jump right away into that. And whoever thought that Jacob deGrom would be a big question mark? And let's face it, Jacob throws the ball too damn hard. I think I've been saying this all the year on the podcast, that Jacob just throws the ball too damn hard. I knew the way he was built, sooner or later something's going to give when you're throwing every pitch over 100 miles an hour. But here's the facts. His 2021 season was on track to be one of the most dominant pitching seasons in the history of baseball, and that was derailed because of injury. Now, deGrom suffered a setback when initially trying to return and was shut down. While deGrom and the Mets are saying his UCLA is not UCLA, hey, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, no, UCLA, I should be UCL. It's Friday, forgive me. His UCL is not compromised. It would be possible to know how healthy he will be in 2022 until he is out there pitching every 5th day. So I don't think the Mets are going to extend a contract extension to deGrom. It's almost like he's going to have to prove himself next year to get that extension. So with Syndergaard and Marcus Stroman free agents with no ace-level pitching prospects close to the majors, And that's not the Mets we know. We got good position players in the works, but we don't have pitching, and that's very unmet-like. The last thing the Mets needed was a giant question mark surrounding deGrom, but that's what they had. They have right now. And one step towards shoring up the rotation would be extending the qualifying offer to Syndergaard, and another would be re-signing Stroman. I think Stroman's almost a guarantee. He's just been so good. He's consistent year after year. And I think a 5-year deal, maybe $120 million, I think that would be just great for Stroman. I think he kind of likes pitching for the Mets. And as the Mets head towards 2022 with deGrom's health still in question, the team intent on competing for a championship, how they fill out the rotation will be among the biggest things to watch. Now, like I said, when this trade was made with Javy Baez, you don't go out and get Javy Baez and give up Pete Crow Armstrong, who was the number 1 pick for the Mets one year and the 4th pick overall, if you're not going to re-sign Baez. And Baez has proven his doubters wrong this year. Now, the Met offense heading into the offseason are unsettled. There's a chance there'll be lots of turnover and some new faces in the starting lineup come 2022. Should Baez be brought back? I say hell yeah. The New York offense as a whole was putrid in 2021, and the issues the team had with runners in scoring position were glaring. And while a hitter like Baez with so much swing and miss in his game is not an ideal fit for a lineup that has trouble with situational hitting, it can be argued that he is a strong fit overall for what the team needs, especially if they reshape the offense elsewhere, and especially if Baez's new play discipline is something he can sustain. Now, I didn't see Baez that often with the Cubs, but from what I'm hearing, he's really become a lot more disciplined at the plate as a New York Met, and that's a good thing. Now, specifically, what Baez will cost you with his strikeout tendencies can be made up for with his power. I mean, he has lethal power. You look at him, you don't think he could hit a ball that high and that far and that hard. And he has speed, he has base running ability and defense. And let's face it, he thrives on taking that gamble out there and mixing things up in the baseball pass. And I love it. I think he's the type of guy that can electrify a ball club. He reminds me a little bit of Jose Reyes, but more of a gambling Jose Reyes. And let's face it, he's in his prime right now. Baez will be entering his age 29 season in 2022. Now, there will be other options on the market, including Chris Bryant. But I think we've got a taste of what Baez can do in New York. I think he will fit in. And I just can't help picture Baez and Lindor as a double play combo for the next 5, maybe even more years than that. Was wondering what you guys had to think about that. Now, there is some good news on alumni front. If you've been following the story, Darryl Strawberry's granddaughter, MyLisa Reid, was found. And she was found safe. And Darryl was out there on Instagram, Facebook, pleading for her to be returned safely. The Mets and Yankees slugger, I like to call him the Mets slugger, asked his 66 followers to help track down his missing 14-year-old granddaughter, MyLisa Reid, who was last seen on Wednesday. Strawberry posted, "This is our granddaughter, MyLisa, who was missing on the right." And let's see if I have a picture queued up here. She is here. There you go. There's MyLisa, and it's good she's back in the fold. Strawberry's post said the teen was last seen early Wednesday and advised anyone with information to contact police in Henderson, which is outside of Las Vegas. One of Strawberry's 5 children, Diamond Strawberry, who appeared on VH1 Season 5 of Love and Hip Hop New York, later shared the good news on her account late Thursday, I should say, that MyLisa was okay. She told her 279,000 followers, "MyLisa was found safe. Thank you, everyone, for helping me find my baby. Couldn't have done it without you. I am forever grateful. All the report and attention that was brought is the reason my baby is home." Now, Darryl Strawberry had previously called on her followers to share her original Instagram post, which also says has since been removed with a description of her daughter, TMZ reported. Now, Strawman, always one of my favorites, was an 8-time All-Star and 4-time World Series champ who played 8 years with the Mets before rejoining the Dodgers, Giants, and wrapping up his career with the New York Yankees. He finished with 335 home runs and 1,000 RBIs and was inducted into the Mets Hall of Fame in 2010. Some people actually say maybe the strongman's number should be retired by the Mets. I don't know how you guys feel about that. I think the legacy of Strawberry and Gooden are kind of tarnished because of what happened while they were Mets. And Strawberry and Gooden really could have been something special. And they were still special in Met history. So not taking away their accomplishments at all. But the big news is his granddaughter is safe. And that is a good thing. Another good thing was, I don't know if you guys have been following this story about the Mets 9/11 alumni from 2011. But again, 20 years later, they're chipping into the cause. They were back in Queens Thursday, 20 years after the Amazing hosted the Big Apple's first game since the terrorist attacks changed the city forever. Former manager Bobby Valentine, some of his old squad, came to Citi Field for the 20th annual gala, Tuesday's Children, a nonprofit that helps 9/11 families and other groups affected by terrorism and military conflict. Now, the event came shortly after the 20th anniversary of the historic 9/21/01 game against the Atlanta Braves, which took place at Citi Field's predecessor, Shea Stadium. Now, remember that game? Hall of Fame catcher Mike Piazza belted a go-ahead home run in the bottom of the 8th inning against the rival Braves, giving the grieving crowd something to celebrate. And Valentine, to this day, says that game was bigger than baseball. It was about bringing everyone together to help us heal, Valentine said. It was like putting a small bandage on a large wound. Valentine went on to say, we promised that night to be there for the children of those who lost their loved ones on 9/11. 20 years later, we will never forget. We'll always be there for you. I am so proud that the 2001 Mets players who have continued to stand with Tuesday's Children's Day and help others who have been impacted by terrorism. Also taking part in the gala, besides Bobby Valentine, Mets staples Edgardo Alfonso, John Franco, Al Leiter, and Todd Zeile, guys who always step up to plate for the Mets. Now, 9/11 family members included Met Media Relations Associate Rob Schratt, whose dad, John Schratt, died in the 2001 attacks as a member of the FDNY. Now, Tuesday's Children says it has provided support to 42,000 people impacted by terrorism and mass violence in the last 2 decades, including 3,051 children who lost a parent on 9/11. And that is always, always good to see. When I hear stories like that from the Mets and their organization, I can't feel proud not to be a Met fan. So great job, guys, stepping up to the plate. Now, who else is stepping up to the plate for the Mets? Well, how about Jeurys Familia? Yes, Jeurys wants to stay as a Met, and that's what you want to see. You want to see a guy who continues to want to wear the orange and blue. Now, he thought his Met career was finished when he got traded 3 years ago, so he isn't prepared to say it's definitely concluding with the next 10 days. But the veteran waiver set to hit free agency for the second time also understands the team might not consider him as part of the 2022 equation, and his value could be higher elsewhere. Familia has said, I like it here. I love it here. This is the team that gave me an opportunity to see my dream come true. This is a business, and anywhere I go, I'm going to do my best. Now, Jeurys is getting up there in age. That we cannot deny. He is now 32 years old. So, when you get to that, you don't want to make long-term commitments. And that this season, he emerged in 2012. So he's been a Met disciple for almost 10 years now. And that season included Familia blowing 3 saves in the 2015 World Series. Well, when he became the closer 3 years later after joining the club in 2012. And Familia, like I said, he blew 3 saves in that World Series against the Royals. And sometimes that can make a pitcher explode and never be the same again for the team. And most notably, he was throwing a quick pitch to Alex Gordon, blasted for a tying homer in 9th. The Mets lost in Game 1. Oh, if we could ever get that one back. But in 2016, he bounced back pretty damn strong. He set a franchise record with 51 saves. But with the team removed from contention 2 years later, he was dealt to Oakland at the trade deadline. His return to the organization came the following winter when the Mets, under former general manager Brodie Van Wagenen, gave him a 3-year contract worth $30 million. That's a big bucko's contract to be a setup man for Edwin Diaz. And over the life of that contract, Familia, let's face it, he pitched to mixed results. This season, he's 9-4 with a 3.79 ERA and a 1.40 WHIP in 62 appearances. So AC's not a setup man. He's not, but he is a dependable reliever. I just not sure what kind of money he's going to be looking for and what kind of Mets are going to be offering. So it'll be interesting to see. And let's face it, it's not like he's been lights out all year. It's been a series of ups and downs for Familia this year. But he does work hard, and I feel he does want to be a Met. But let's face it, with Diaz, Seth Lugo, and Trevor May among the Mets relievers under club control or signed for next season, it would be a bit surprising if the team didn't make a push to sign lefty Aaron Loup, who basically has probably been the best reliever on the Mets with a 1.0 ERA. And whether Familia fits after all this is said and done will be to whoever the Mets hire as a president of baseball operations. Now, pitching coach Jeremy Hefner, who was Familia's teammate in 2012 and 2013, said he admires the transition to right fielder has made from all-star closer to versatile bullpen piece. I think given where he was, and especially what he's done for this organization, he had 51 saves that one year, to not be the closer and take the ball when he's asked, whether it be an up 2 game or down 5 game or up 6 game, he always says yes. So that is true. Familia pitches no matter what the circumstances. And let's face it, he was the best closer at one point for the Mets in 2016. To take the ball now and do the job, I think it speaks a lot about Familia, that he's the type of guy who can accept any role with the Mets, and that's the type of guy you want on your team. And from what I'm hearing, he's also been a sounding board for Edwin Diaz. Let's face it, Diaz has a little bit of Familia in him too, because he weathers the inconsistencies, and Diaz has had his ups and downs in the last 3 years as a Met. So they kind of feed off of each other. So who knows? You never know. And that's the beauty of this offseason. We'll be talking about this stuff all offseason. Good stuff coming up. And asked how he would like to be remembered with the Mets if his time with the organization is about to finish, Familia said, "From the team, everybody knows how hard I work, and I am not going to say how they are going to remember me, because I know how hard I work and how serious I take my job. And I think my name is going to be remembered for some guys here. Anywhere I go, I will be okay. I want to be here, but this is part of the game, you know." And I would like to see him stay. Now, the bigger question for the Mets is, who's going to be the Mets general manager? Who's going to be running the show next year? And I think due to the Sandy Alderson equation and all this, I think it may very well be Billy Beane if they can work something out financially. And I think that's the guy that they should go after. I don't know how you guys think about it, but I think Billy Beane, who has done wonders with Moneyball in Oakland, if he actually has a bigger payroll to work with and can build for a longer term future, I think Billy may be the answer. I don't know how you guys think about that, but Billy to me is the man. He is the man. His track record, 20 years he's been doing this strong. Like I said, Steve Cohen faces the most important decision of his Met ownership, quite possibly the defining one in the coming month or so, when he lands on who will run his baseball operations. So I personally would pick Beane over Epstein. I'm not sure who you would choose, but we hear there's no whining about Beane's not working in the playoffs, because these Mets, if you haven't noticed, are not very good at making the playoffs. So being someone who makes the playoffs every year isn't a criteria, but the way Beane can actually develop a roster out of basically nothing and mold it into what he wants it to be is something the Mets may want to look at. Just have a style of play that fits the Mets style, sort of like Cardinal baseball, Dodger baseball, the Cardinals way. Just do it, and let's build a system that other teams are going to be damn proud of. Now, it probably won't be easier to get Beane, because he is a consultant for Major League Baseball, and Billy Beane is just an executive as vice president of baseball ops with the A's. But what the Mets can do is trade one of those assets I've seen before, where you trade a player or whatever, or future considerations for a general manager. So let's do this. Let's do this. In 21 prior campaigns, Beane's A's have made the postseason 11 times on a payroll that is horrible. And every year he's had to work something. Each season has been played on a shoestring budget. And the 2021 A's have a payroll of about $89 million, and they're still in the hunt for a wild card. So that stands as half of what the $199 million Cohen has allocated for the Mets. Now, Beane has displayed a unique knack for building a winner, tearing it down and constructing another strong group. His A's experience has a 5-year October gap between 2006 and 2012 successes, then shortened that to 3 years between 2014 and 2018. It's true that because of the fact that he was successful with the Moneyball thing and his popularity blossomed, he probably did get some more freedoms and free reign as an Oakland A general manager. And he nearly left baseball for soccer last year until merger talks with his Red Bull Acquisition Corp and the Red Sox Fenway Sports Group fell apart. Yet his chosen general manager, David Frost, performed excellent work keeping the A's relevant in the way baseball teams get run nowadays. It'll be vital for Beane to select another GM, no matter how much he curtails or doesn't his outside activities. Here's an easy recommendation. A's assistant GM, director of player personnel, Billy Owens, who interviewed for the Mets GM opening last winter, and unlike the two people the Mets hired over him, still holds his job, which he started with the season. And that's not all. Whether or not you think Sandy Alderson should stay after an extremely rough start to his Mets sequel, he's staying. And Beane and Anderson are extremely close. Protege and mentor, if you will, having worked together for multiple times in Oakland. Ironically, the strongest bond between Alderson and Epstein might be that they both gave jobs to Jared Porter and Zach Scott. Uh-oh. Maybe we don't want to hear that, do we, Met fans? But, yeesh, that is the case. But let's not hold that against them, shall we? I still say that he is worth the gamble. And how much appealing would Beane become if he were to bring A's manager Bob Melvin with him? Melvin loves New York also, and he was one of those guys the Mets at one time were considered to be manager. And that would also require compensation. He ranks among the best at what he does, bringing profound competence to the field, the clubhouse, and the fans via press conferences. Alderson's first managerial search for the Mets came down to Terry Collins and Melvin. So there you have it. And I think Billy Beane would work well with Steve Cohen. I don't think anything would fluster Billy Beane at this point in his career. And Billy Beane even said, my shit doesn't work in the playoffs. My job is to get us to the playoffs. What happens after that is fucking luck. And there's a good amount of truth to that. Common sense says that doubling the budget and then some can only help with his luck. And I agree wholeheartedly. Now, there's a belief within the industry that Beane, a long-time California resident, is really open to coming to the East. If so, you should believe in Beane, no matter what. He's still trying to win the last game of the season. Wouldn't meeting that goal at Citi Field be one hell of an inning? Yes, the Mets having the last game of the regular season that's relevant. I'm all for it. I hope you're all for it. And what other baseball notes that we have? Now, I'm not even aware of this, but I'll throw that out there to you. Ricky Meinhold, the Mets assistant pitching coach, minor league coordinator, leaves the team for other opportunities, according to Mets sources. So wish him well. To be honest with you, I didn't know too much about him, but I thought I'd pass that little footnote along. Now, today in Met history, we have some birthdays to celebrate. Hugh B Brooks. Wasn't on ESPN they used to call him Hubie Babbling Brooks? Well, anyway, Hubie was a damn good player. I think he's very, very underrated for his career. He had a good one with the Mets, 654 games. He batted .267, slugged 44 homers with 269 RBIs, but really blossomed with the Expos. And he almost had MVP-like years with the Expos. Always one of my favorites. And check out the three numbers he wore at one time as a Met, 62, 39, and 7. That sounds like bingo numbers. Who else is having a birthday today? How about Bernard Gilkey? Now, what's Bernard Gilkey's Met claim to fame? He established a Met season record for doubles in 1996 with 44. And he tied the season record of 117 runs batted in 1996. Now, that was previously set by Howard Johnson in 91, but guess who broke it? Yes, Mike Piazza with 124 in 1999. Happy birthday to Bernard Gilkey. And happy birthday to Hunter Strickland. Yes, he was with us in that COVID year of 2020. He pitched 4 games and ERA at 8.10, 3.1 innings pitched. He signed as free agent, and then he went back to Tampa Bay during the offseason. Who else is celebrating a birthday? Drew Smith. Yes, happy birthday, Drew. Maybe you'll get to pitch today. Number 62. He's been with us now since he was with us in 18, came back in 20 and then 21. Altogether, 66 games pitched. Let's focus on his numbers this year. 3-1 with a 2.40 ERA. He has pitched well. No saves. He's basically a setup man. But happy birthday to Drew Smith. Bruce Barons, is Bernard went to Boston, or was it Husky? I think it was Husky, but let's do a quick check on that. Where did he go? Bernard Gilkey, after the Mets, he was traded to the Arizona Diamondbacks for Nelson Let's Get Figgy With It Figueroa in exchange for Jorge Fabregas and Willie Blair. So might very well be Butch Husky, but I'm not even sure on that. Bruce, give us something to look forward to after the broadcast. Or do a little research on that. And I thank you for asking. But let's put our time caps on. Let's go back to 1969 when the amazing Mets clinched the National League Eastern title. Those were good days indeed. And basically, it made the Mets respectable in the baseball world. You want to talk about it? That big day, it was Wednesday, September 24th, 1969. And if you're a diehard Met fan, you'll even know the time. It was 9:06 on this historic night. The amazing Mets clinched their first NL Eastern divisional title. Now, in their 8th year of existence, after finishing last 5 times, the Mets were champions of their Eastern Division. They were the first champions of the newly formed National League Eastern Division, since divisional play was in its first year in 1969. The Mets and their fans were rubbed up tonight as Shea Stadium was jumping with 54,928 fans, anticipating the amazing feat the young Mets were about to accomplish. Now, the Mets, 96 and 61, hosted last year's NL champions, the Cardinals, who were a damn good ball club themselves, and they came in with a record of 82 and 74. Now, Gil Hodges sent out his fine young rookie, Gary Gentry, whose record at the time was 11 and 12, to the mound, going up against future Hall of Famer Steve Carlton, 12 and 11. What a great matchup. 2 hard-throwing pitchers. Now, 2 weeks earlier, Carlton set a record with 19 strikeouts in the game, but was beaten by the Mets 2-0 on Rocky Ron Swoboda's home runs. 2 home runs that day. Here's the lineup, and like I said, that Cardinal lineup was awesome. Lou Brock leading off, playing left field. Kurt Flood, center field, batting second. Vada Pinson, right field, batting third. Joe Torre, first base, batting fourth. Timmy McCarver, catching, batting fifth. Mike Shannon, playing third, batting sixth. Julian Javier, playing second base, batting seventh. Dal Maxfield, playing shortstop, batting eighth. And one of the best left-handers of all time, Steve Carlton, pitching and batting ninth. For our beloved Metropolitans, we had Bud Harrelson leading off, playing shortstop. Tommy Agee playing center field, batting second. Cleon Jones batting third, playing left field. Don Clendenin, first base, batting fourth. Ron Swoboda, right field, batting fifth. Eddie the Glider Charles batting sixth and playing third. Jerry Grody, the Secretary of Defense behind the plate, catching, batting seventh. Al Weiss playing second base, batting eighth. And Gary Gentry pitching, batting ninth. Now, tonight, Gentry went out and pitched a 4-hit complete game shutout, striking out 5 cards and walking 2. It was Gentry's 3rd shutout of the year as he went from 12 to 12, 12 and 12. He went to 12 and 12, time at Boston, and now he had a 3.53 ERA on the season. Now, the Mets knocked lefty Carlton out in the first inning as the Met offense went right to work. Buddy Harrelson led the game off with a walk and Tommy Agee singled. Then the Mets slugger Don Clendenin, boom, blasted a 3-run homer, bringing the fans to their feet in a loud roar. Now the dugout jumped up and came on the field to greet a happy Clendenin on his 15th homer of the year, his 34th RBI since joining the Mets on June 15th. It was the first of 2 blasts for Big Don on the night. Ron Swoboda drew a walk. Ed Charles the Glider, the oldest player on the team. Here's a little trivia fact for you on the 69 Mets. He was 36. He joined in on the festivities by hitting just his third home run of the year. The Glider clapped his hands as he rounded third base. He later told the press, "Just to let the fans know this was it, because at my age, I may not have any more left." At least he was being honest. You gotta love the Glider. And he followed his career working for the Met organization for quite some time. He was well liked by the Mets. And Clendenin added a 16th homer, his 12th as a Met in the 5th inning. Now, in the 9th inning, Lou Brock led off with a base hit, and Vic Davalillo followed with another. Gentry then struck out Vada Pinson for the first out. Then it was the Cards, Joe Torre, who hit double play, Bud Harrelson to Al Weiss to Don Clendenin to end the game, and all hell broke loose. And the Met players all ran to the mound area and jumped for joy to celebrate with each other. Within seconds, confetti streamed down from the stands. Firecrackers went off. The Met fans swarmed the field, turning it into a chaotic frenzy. The players fled to the dugout, running for their lives. The fans ripped everything apart, making the outfield grass look like the surface of the moon. There was torn-up clumps of dirt a foot or more deep, looking like craters of the recently landed moon. The Met fans chanted, "We're number one. We're number one." And they were number one. The crowd refused to leave the ballpark until the police rounded everyone up hours later, exiting them through the center field gates. Several arrests were made, but few injuries were reported. Mets VP in charge of Shea Stadium said, "We'll have to get it back in shape for the playoffs. Fortunately, the club's going on the road, and we have more than a week. It's a mess, a wonderful mess." You don't do that anymore these days. They'll have horses and cops all over the outfield when the game ends. But in the clubhouse, the amazing Mets celebrated with champagne. Tom Seaver doused the smiling manager, Gil Hodges. "Here's to you, Skip." Jerry Kuzman shook the bottle and sprayed the press. A usually low-key Nolan Ryan poured some bubbly over chairman of the board M. Donald Grant's head. Ed Kranepool, an original Met from '62, shouted, "Here's to you, Leo." The reference was to Chicago Cubs manager Leo DeRocher, whose team had held on to first place for most of the season, and they were rivals, the Mets and the Cubs. There was some heated exchanges on the field between those two in '69, the Mets and the Cubs. Now, Kranepool had dental surgery the day before and had a swollen jaw and said, "Screw the jaw, I've waited too long for this." Some of the players raised their bottles and remembered Casey Stengel saying, "Here's to Casey." And that was a nice tribute to Casey. He was there at the beginning. Now, the Mets were in the midst of a 9-game win streak to take them toward the end of the season. They were now 96-61 and 6 games up on the Cubs with 5 left to play in the regular season. On October 2nd, they would win their 100th game of the season. And if you're a betting man, you cleaned up on the Mets in '69 because at the beginning of the season, they were 100-1 odds to win the World Series. So what a year for the Mets. What a year. And it's one that even if you're not a Met fan, you love and worship. And yes, Bruce, it was against the Cardinals, as I mentioned the lineup. And you're right, Bruce. Key Charles were Charles and Clendenin. I think Clendenin more so. They say he was the missing piece because he was acquired before the summer started, and he was the missing piece for the Mets that year. So you nailed that one, Bruce. When don't you nail it? Anyway, what else happened on this day in Met history? Let's see. On this date, just a year prior, manager Gil Hodges, during a game against the Braves in Atlanta, suffers a mild heart attack. The New York skipper, who will die of a massive coronary in 1972, is hospitalized until October 20th when doctors give him a clean bill of health, but warned him about the continued risks of stress and smoking. And I think that can apply to everybody. Got to be careful. Got to take care of yourselves. And Gil was a beloved figure. So those are 2 big things that happened on this date in Met history. Was there anything else I wanted to mention? Oh, yeah, in 1975, Tom Seaver won the adage, "The third time's the charm." Isn't always true when he loses his bid for a third no-hitter. His third attempt at a no-hitter in the 9th inning for the 3rd time in his career. After striking out Don Kessinger and Rick Monday, rookie outfielder Joe Wallace, I think his name was Tarzan, was playing in his 15th career game and singled to right field for the Cubs' first hit off the Mets starter in the Wrigley Field contest. Now about this day in 2011. Brush off our cobwebs. Who remembers Dillon Gee? Well, on this day in 2011, Dillon Gee becomes the first Met rookie to win 13 games in a season in 27 years when New York defeats Washington 6-3 in 1984. Dwight Gooden compiled a 17-9 record as a freshman and 31 starts for that team. So those are some of the good things that happened on this day in Met history. And as always, we have great stuff going on in the group every day. If you're not a member, please do join. If you're a Facebook user, please join New York Mets Baseball Way of Life. We'd love to have you. Great stuff is discussed there every day. I also run another baseball group, and occasionally I'll do a YouTube podcast for that. It's called Baseball Way of Life. Please join that. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe. That way you'll be updated every time one is about to come on, and everything is archived there. And please like it and subscribe. And if you ever want to reach out to me, I'm at philstan41@gmail.com. And what else? I do have this New York Mets Baseball Way of Life as a podcast, and it's on all your podcast carriers. So search it out. It's New York Mets Baseball Way of Life. Would be glad if you did one or all of the options I mentioned. It would really make my day. So please do that. Make my day. Like Clint Eastwood said, make my day. Well, yesterday's Met question today was, which player is more important to the Mets future? Jeff McNeil or Dom Smith? We had some good answers. Our beloved Harvey Porter says, neither one of them. Get rid of both. Ouch. But I can understand where Harvey's coming from. They've been disappointing, and sometimes you just have to move on. But myself out for some. Here I am. Oh my God, am I ugly? Anyway, here we go. Jason Lynn says, can't keep both. I believe Dom is more the player he's been this year than the all-star player in 2020. McNeil is probably worth rolling the dice on next year to bounce back. I'm not opposed to giving him another year. And I agree with Jason on that. Dan Wiener is a big fan of Dom. He says, how do you unload a lefty that hits lefties well? Ron Davis says, both of you got a good hitting coach. Both of you get a good hitting coach. Marty Rose says, I believe Dom because with DH coming, he can spell Pete at first. If they're saying Baez, McNeil is expendable. I would agree somewhat with the DH coming, but don't forget we have Robbie Cano next year. And then I said, when I say Vince Coleman was the first thing that pops in your head, Ron Kaplan said he didn't know anything about Jackie Robinson. And I forgot about that. He didn't even know who Jackie Robinson was, and that's pretty sad. Don Kecko says 100 steals. And then we mentioned that the Mets were saddened to learn about the passing of Vincent Piazza, father of Mike Piazza. Those two are known for their famous bond, so condolences to the Piazza family on that. What else is going on in the world of the Metropolitans? We had a poll. If you could only keep one of the two for 2022, who you keeping, Jeff McNeil or Dom Smith? 78% of you said Dom McNeil. And I said, when I say Trevor May, what is the first thing that pops in your head? Richard Rose says, 3-run homer, LOL. I guess he has bad memories of Trevor this year. And Ron Davis said, middleman with good or bad results. And again, that's some of the good stuff we have. And if you're not a member of the group, please join the friggin' group. As we do every day, we ramble on, and you guys are enjoying it. Thanks for all your feedback. But let's go to the trivia question and the Jeopardy question of the day. The trivia question is, who holds the Mets single season record for doubles? I actually gave you this answer during the YouTube cast, so if you're listening, you'll know it. And then today's Jeopardy is 2 clues. In 2005, he was a backup catcher to Mike Piazza with 41 RBIs and 209 at-bats, a career-best .244 batting average, and he played solid defense. When Piazza became a free agent after the season, it looked like he might again get a chance to be a starter. The Mets traded him for Paul Duca, who previously had replaced him in Florida. Okay, I'll give you a few seconds while I get some water here and refresh the vocal cords. Now, who's ready for the answers? The trivia question again was, who holds the New York Mets single-season record for doubles? Well, the correct answer is Bernard Gilkey, who had 44 doubles in 1996. Congrats to our main man, Jason Lynch, on being the first to submit the correct answer. And our Jeopardy was in 2005. He was backup catcher to Mike Piazza with 41 RBIs and 209 at-bats, a career-best 244 batting average, and played solid defense. And when Mike Piazza became a free agent after the season, it looked like he might again get a chance to be a starter. The Mets traded for Paul Aduca, who previously had replaced him in Florida. Well, Jason Lynch knew the answer to this one, and I'm going to give you what the answer is. The correct response was, who is Ramon Castro? Thanks for playing, guys. As always, I hope you're enjoying these. I love giving them, just seeing how you guys are so smart when it comes to your Met knowledge. It really impresses me. Well, that's going to wrap up all we have to talk about today. Hopefully, we'll have good news to talk about tomorrow as the Mets head out to Milwaukee for a 3-game series. Brewers are stacked. They're getting ready for the playoffs. They have a great pitching staff. Let's see how the Mets can do. We'll be throwing out Tylor Megill, who has struggled of late. I'm impressed with him, and you got to stick with him. I think he's a future arm for this team to be a solid 3, 4, 5 starter for us. He has the stuff, and we didn't expect him to be up this early yet. So Tylor Megill with a record of 3-5 with a 4.57 ERA, 91 Ks goes tonight. Eric Lauer goes for the Brewers. He's 6-5 with a 3.03 ERA and 105 Ks. Should be a good one. Hopefully, we'll be back to talk about this tomorrow with our happy recap, as Bob Murphy used to say. And it will be fun. It will be fun to talk about it. And again, thank you for all your support, all your feedback. I love the fact you guys are listening on the podcast, on the YouTube cast, on Baseball Way Life, New York Mets Baseball Way Life. It means the most to me. And please subscribe on YouTube and subscribe to the podcast. You guys are the best. And don't forget to join the group, New York Mets Baseball Way of Life. Until tomorrow when we talk again, have a great day. Let's go Mets. Whether you're a Met fan or not, you're a baseball fan. That's what counts. And like I said, we'll be doing some general baseball YouTube casts. And once we get a topic that's really hot in our group, I'll come on and discuss it. So enjoy your day, enjoy the weekend, and we will talk soon. God bless you.